Crafty friends, Kristina here with you from Close to My Heart. I'm excited. Today we are going to be doing some cards that have a masculine feel to them. I know a lot of times it's so much easier for us to make feminine cards with flowers, butterflies, and all the pretty colors, and sometimes we struggle with doing masculine ones, so I thought it would be fun to do some masculine cards that are also interactive to kind of step them up a little bit. So on the front, it just looks like it's kind of like a gatefold card, but when you open it, you notice that it has this pull-out feature, which is perfect to just have something move, or it's also perfect for putting you can tuck a little gift card in there. So when I designed these, I wanted them to be, like I said, I wanted them to be masculine, so that way we had some ideas for our masculine cards that we needed to create. But I also wanted them to be versatile. Like if you look at these, like especially this one, this could be great for a birthday because it just says celebrate, and when you open it up here, it just has a tag and also the ability to go ahead and put in a gift card like I showed on the other one. But it could also be for graduation because it says celebrate. It could be for Father's Day coming up. Same thing with this could be a birthday or it could be Father's Day. You got this nice grilling card here. So we have a new paper packet called Hey Handsome, and we're using, I think, almost all of the patterns that are in it. And I love the rich colors, the patterns, and especially the texture like we have with this tweed here. It just gives it a really nice feel to it. So I also incorporated a couple of fun techniques. So hopefully all around you should get something new out of this today. So if you have the kit, let's go ahead and pull it out. You have everything pre-cut and pre-stamped for you. And I know people always ask if there are still kits left. There are a handful of kits still available. When I finish here, I will put the link in the comments so that it's easy for you to find. And also this time I did something a little different. I offered the option to just get the tutorial PDF, so that way you could just do this with your own products that you have on hand. So either way, you have a couple of ways that you can do it. Okay. So we're going to start with a celebrate card here. We'll put this other one to the side. So I did bag all of your small pieces because there are an awful lot of small pieces in these two cards. So I put them in a separate baggie, and then I have each card in its own envelope here. And then you have these fun die cut arrows that, excuse me, we're going to be working with. Okay, so like I said, we're going to start with a celebrate card. So let me pull out that one. Okay, make sure no pieces are left in there. You can put the envelope to the side. Okay, so everything else out of the way here. Okay, so as I said, a lot of fun patterns in here. So all of our pattern paper is two-sided, so you've got two different options that you can work with. And so you can do it just as I'm showing, or you can flip it to the other side if you want to get a different feel, a different look. It's your card, so you make it as you want it. And so let's go ahead and get started here. So the first parts that we're going to do here are pretty basic. We're just going to do some layering. So I'm going to start by, actually, I didn't do any hard crisp folds with your cards. So you'll want to, if you have a bone folder, go ahead and firm up those folds. And so I always like to kind of line up the sides just to make sure that they're equal, so that when I do my bone folder on here, I know that it's balanced and it's not going to be crooked. So like I said, it's kind of like a gatefold card here. So we're having those two ends kind of meet up to each other. And then we're just going to go ahead and, if you don't have a bone folder, just use your finger and just get a nice crease there. And like I said, you'll see that those two ends meet up together. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to start by taking this tweed piece here, and it's going to go perfectly on this bottom portion. So you have a larger portion on the top, and then you have this bottom portion that's a little bit smaller, and that's the portion that we're going to go ahead and glue this tweed pattern to. All right, and like I said, if you want the other pattern, you can do that. The only thing is that the orientation of that pattern may not be going the direction that you want it to be. So that might not make it as easy to flip and do the other side. Okay, so we have this tweed pattern on here, and then what we're going to use, this is called a zip strip. If you notice on the back, it may not be on all of yours, but all of our papers they're actually 12 inches by 12.5, and that extra half-inch strip has the name of the paper packet, so it's easy to reference. But what I like is it tells the colors that are in that paper collection, so it's really easy for you to coordinate everything and know that it's all going to work together nicely. But what they do is then we put this nice pattern on the other side so that you can use it. So it's kind of a fun way, it's kind of a bonus piece that you get to work with. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to glue this flush up against the top of that flap, just so that we get that nice stripe on top of the tweed. Okay. right along there, just like that. Easy enough, right? Okay, so now you have your black piece of cardstock and you have another piece of tweed. So the tweed is just going to go right in the center of that, so you have a nice border going around there, so that way it shows that a little bit. Okay. Kind of hard to see the black on black. I'm sorry about that. If I raise that up, you can see a little bit. There's a nice border around there. And then we're just going to simply center that on that top flap portion. So if I open this up here, you can see it a little bit better. So you're going to have a nice white border all the way around. Okay. All right. So then before we go any further, I'm going to show you the stamp set that I worked with for this particular card, and then show you a little trick in case you have not thought to do this before. So this is our Hello Darlin card making stamp set here. It's got a bunch of stars and all of these blue areas, these three things here, these are dies that come in them. All of our stamps are packaged the same way, and if they have dies, it'll show you in that blue color, and so that way the dies can actually be right in the package with them, so that it's super easy to go ahead and keep it all together. So I did want to show you, I did cut out a bunch of different stars for you guys, and I stamped some of them to kind of give it a little bit more texture, to work with the texture of that tweed. And so you'll notice, like, for example, this orange one here, this paprika, it has a nice stitching around it, and that is the stamp that fits perfectly with that die. You see it here. But some of them, the stamps are bigger than some of the dies, and that doesn't mean that you can't stamp with that. So I wanted to just show you that real quick in case you hadn't thought to do that before, because you always think that, you know, oh, it's meant for this one size and this is the size I'm going to work with. So I'm just going to grab my pine ink pad, and then I'm going to do this nice checkered gingham star. So pretending that I had, let me see if I have an extra star actually real quick. Okay, I don't have any small extra stars, but I'll grab this one here. It's a larger star, so this star is actually going to be smaller. So this is kind of the opposite of what I wanted to show, but it's great for showing off that. So I'm going to go ahead and ink that up, and I'm going to stamp right in the center. So first of all, even though this wasn't the intended one, like this is larger, you still get a fun effect with it. And what I was going to show is if you had the smaller die cut, you could still stamp with this, and you'd get this effect here like this mink one. So it's small, and this other pine one here, I just stamped on it. So it's just, you have to have that scratch paper beneath it, so that way it catches that extra ink. So hopefully that makes sense, so that you don't have to actually use the stamps that are to the exact size of the die that you're cutting. So it just gives you another way to use it. So it's more versatile, I guess you could say. Okay, so we'll put that to the side. So all of those little stars are all going to be in the inside of your packet. So we're going to pull those out because we're going to start adding those to our card. Let's open up this little Ziploc here. And I apologize, I'm trying to look at comments, but if I miss your question or comment, I promise I will go back and answer them all when I'm done. Okay, so like I said, we've got a lot of goodies in here, so you want to put all of your stars. You've got some big ones and some small ones. Okay, so I think there's 3 big and 3 small. Actually, maybe 4 small. Yeah, I got 4 small here. Okay, so what I did, I'm not sure if this is going to show off very well, is I alternated between having some on 3D foam. I'm trying to show, there's foam behind this large pine one and this large harbor one, as well as the large paprika. So all 3 large ones are raised up, and then I've used some foam also on these 2 little ones because I wanted to get a little bit of lift, because what I'm doing is I'm using it as a way to tuck them behind each other, so that creates that closure mechanism. You don't have to do that. You'll see on the second card, we're not going to actually create something like that, but it's just kind of a fun technique to have that interlocking aspect to that. So what we're going to do, like I said, is we're going to get some 3D foam. Let me find some foam here. And we're going to raise up those 3 large ones. And you'll notice when I have that open, actually let me open it up again so you just can kind of see. These top 2 are only glued to the top flap, whereas the paprika is glued to the bottom flap. Okay, that's how it's going to kind of create that ability to interlock, because they're not all connected on the same piece. So you'll notice I put my 3D foam to the base of my star, so that way there's nothing here towards the top that can get stuck on the front top flap. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that backing. I'm going to stick that down. Okay, and then now I'm going to go ahead and open that there. And I'm going to do the same thing with the green one. Oops, actually I should have that more to the top there. Okay, so I noticed that I kind of like switched that under there a little bit just so I can kind of get a sense of where it's going. So it's a little bit underneath the paprika one, but it's only glued to the top flap portion here. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the harbor. And you might be noticing as I'm doing this, when you're doing it too, if you've got the kit, that when you flip over the cardstock, our cardstock is two-toned, so you've got a light shade and then a dark shade. The dark shade is always the true color. So for example, this blue one here, we're actually working with the light shade of it. Okay, so now we've got all three of those stars on there. And then you've got your little Celebrate banner. Again, I'm going to use some foam, but I'm going to use our thin, just so I'm not adding too much height. So we've got a regular foam and a thin 3D foam. So I'm going to add a couple little small circles here of the thin foam so that I can still also get this Celebrate to raise. And then I'm going to have that go right across that paprika one there. And then we're just going to go ahead and add in these little ones wherever you want to have them. And like I said, I did 3D foam this one here, this little plaid one that I'm going to put right here. So I'm going to still using that thinner 3D foam. I love having the ability to have both the thin and the regular, because then you can mix them together and you get different levels of height on your project, and it doesn't become too bulky. So that's nice. Okay, then I'm going to grab this one. So I'm doing it exactly like I did my sample. Feel free to stray and do it how you'd like to have your card be. Okay, so I've got those two. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my plaid one, and I'm going to glue that one directly. So I'm just going to put a little adhesive tape on it. Going to bring that one down here. And same thing with this one. And bring that up here. And I think I actually alternated those two from my sample, which is totally fine. Still looks great. So now we've got that. So we're not going to put the arrow on right now because I'm going to show you something fun that you can do with that if you want to change it up, or the dots here. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to go to the inside mechanism because this is the fun part here. Okay, so you've got another piece here, and you're going to fold it in a Z fold. So you've got this smaller section. This is going to go back so that way you have a mountain fold. It goes up, and you want to get, again, a nice crisp fold. So I'm going to use my phone folder here. And then the bottom section, which is a little bit wider of a flap, is going to go up because this is going to create our pocket. This is where we can place our gift card if we want a gift card, or the tag that I added with this kit. Okay, so before we go ahead and start gluing this together, we're going to go ahead and do some things. So here's another pattern that we're using. We're using these words, or if you want to use the other side, you could do that because the direction will work for what we're doing. So what I did is I actually scissor distress. So here's a technique that you can do if you've never done it before. It kind of roughs it up a little bit, gives it kind of, I think, kind of a masculine look to it, so it kind of works well with this. So you take your scissors, and you're going to open them wide, and you're going to do this carefully is the word I want. You're going to go ahead and rub along the edge here, and you'll see it breaks up those paper fibers, right? It is going to get your work area, a little messy, so just be forewarned. All right. And so I'm going all the way around, even though you don't need to go all the way around because all of it's not going to show. I'm just doing this so that way you guys can see, because I know that I can go faster than you guys can because I know what it is that I'm doing and the next step I'm going to do, whereas you guys are following along, so it takes you a little bit longer. So hopefully this will give you a chance to kind of catch up a little bit. So you can do it as much or as little as you want, because the more pressure you give it, the more roughed up it's going to be. But just really be careful, okay? Because if your scissors are sharp like mine, you could cut yourself, and we don't want that, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and glue this piece. It's going to be right on top of that front flap, okay? So going around, I'm going to do it like this. Line it up so that the top edge and the side edges all meet. Also, another thing that I love about when I scissors distress, because it shows that white edge or that white core, if it's not exactly the right size and you're using white paper, no one knows the difference because you've got that roughed up edge, so it kind of hides any flaws, which is always awesome. Okay, so now what we're going to do to create that mechanism, to create that pull, is we're going to glue this skinny section here that we have, this scored section, to this top flap. It's basically going to be all the way up to that score line. You're going to center from the two sides, and so that then it's going to go down like this. So that way what's happening is when you're pulling up on it, it's pulling up on this, creating that movement. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll walk you through it one more time here. So I'm going to put some strong, you want strong adhesive because this is going to have a lot of tension pulling it back and forth. So I'm using score tape, or you could use red tape, and you're going to just have that go across that little score line. And then, let's see, get my piercing tool to remove the backing. Okay. So then, like I said, what you're going to do is, so basically where I have these stars stamped, that's going to go upside down because you're going to have this flap gluing down to that top flap, that bigger flap here from the front, and it's going to be centered from side to side, but flush down to that score line. Okay. Like that. See, so you can see, hopefully, and the idea is that you want to hide that mechanism, so you want the two colors to be the same. I mean, I apologize that it's harder to see because it's white and white, but that's the idea, is that you don't really want to necessarily see that. You want to hide that little trick that you're doing. So, but you can already see now that if I'm opening up this card, it is pulling up this and having it move, right? So then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create that pocket. So in order to create the pocket, we're going to put some strong adhesive on this side and this side, the two sides, but not on the top, only on the two sides. And you want to have it go as close to the edge as you can get it, because you don't want anything to get stuck. Because we're going to tuck in that little pocket that we created. Okay. And then remove the backing here using my piercing tool, quick and easy. All right, so then if we bring this up, keeping the edges lined up, we've now created a pocket here, okay? So then what you're going to do is you're just going to go ahead and slide this into that pocket. And hopefully my adhesive didn't get too much on the sides, which it might have. I thought it was pretty close, but there we go. Okay, so it will be tight the first couple times. And I think I did have my adhesive a little too close. So I might end up pulling mine apart to just redo it. But you get the idea that then, I'm going to show you my sample one so it's more smooth. So now I have my tape really close to the edges, so that way it can slide in and out easily. You see that? Okay, so next what we're going to do, keeping this open, we've got our tag here. So I did a tone-on-tone stamping just so that it kind of ties in all the stars. I used that stitch star again, so this was our mink cardstock, and then I used our mink ink, which is kind of fun that we have all of our coordinating papers and ink so that you know that you can do them all together and it'll match nicely. So then you have this nice thin twine in your kit. So I don't remember how much I did, but it's not very much. Maybe I'm going to cut like 10 inches, I think here. We'll go with 10 inches. Because we want to make sure we have some for the second card. Okay, so then I am going to double up my twine, and I'm going to, kind of like what you do with a bookmark, where you go ahead and pull that loop through, then bring those two ends, and then tie it together. But see, this is kind of thin, and on my sample card I have it a little bit bulkier. If you want to get a little bit more to it, what you can do, let me undo this and show you another fun trick. So I'm going to actually cut this in half, and I'm going to do that same thing. So now I'm creating that loop again, and I'm having that hole, or that loop go through the hole. It'll be a little bit more tricky to get a double loop through there, so don't feel frustrated if it's kind of hard at first. Just keep working at it, and then you're going to put all of these strings through. Okay. And then kind of balance out those ends, and then you can trim them up as needed. But see, it has a little bit more life to it. It's a little bit bulkier, a little bit more to it, which makes it fun. And just like I said at the beginning, you could just do the tag in here, or you could pop a little gift card. Let me see if I still have my gift card hanging around. I think it's in my other card. So anyway, it would still tuck in here too. And you don't have to have the sides sealed, because the only sides that are sealed are this. And then there you have that. So let's go ahead and finish off the front of the card. I'm just going to take that out for now. Okay. So it's going to be a little tricky because now I have my pocket thing here. But I wanted to show you. So you can go ahead and you can use, I gave you some of our black and white gems. You can place those on there. A trick I wanted to show you with both these gems and the arrows, because you'll see you have the gems up here and then the arrows, is you can color them, both of them, which is super fun. You can use alcohol markers, or we're going to use some of these metallic paint markers on our second card, but you can also use them on this card if you wanted to do the white dots, if you wanted to look more metal. So these come in 3 different tip sizes, so it's always a 3-pack. And if you look, let me see if I turn them. So you've got like a fine tip for writing, a little bit bigger for like coloring, and like a really big like chiseled tip, like if you're doing a really big surface area. So I'm gonna go with the middle one here, and you can kind of shake, you can kind of hear it's like a paint thing where that ball is in there to mix it up. If you go ahead and just color your gem, your dot here while it's on the carrier sheet, it does not dry quickly, so don't touch it right away, but you can kind of see that it gives it a really cool like metal look, which is kind of fun, especially if you're doing a masculine card. Then it can kind of look like a nail head or, you know, a screw or something like that. So you could do that if you have the markers. You could do that in place of the black, and it would look really cool. You can also color these fun wood grain arrows. The only thing is that then you don't get the fun wood grain looking through. It'll be pretty opaque. And I did do a sample. Here, let me bring that in so you can see, because this is dry so I can pick it up and it's easy enough. So this is a fun way to get another look to your arrows. Okay, one tip with that I will give you also, if it's challenging for you because it's small, right, is if you use our green tape. Usually I use this for like holding down dies when I'm die cutting, but you could use this if you're going to be coloring something. So I'm just going to pop out one of these arrows. If you stick that to the tape, the sticky part of the tape, and then you can hold on to the tape, and then you can color, and you don't have to touch it and get your fingers all icky. So cool, right? I love that it's just really easy. So then once it's dry, then you can lift it off the tape and then you can color something else on it. So just a way to go ahead and color in your things. So that's how you're going to finish off this card, is going to go ahead and put 2 gems and then an arrow down at the base. Okay, so now we've got one card done. This is our vertical orientation. I wanted to show you how you could do that same concept, but in a horizontal orientation. So again, we open it up and here's that gift card, or if you want to create a tag, I did not create a tag for this one, but you could do that, or it could just be this. It could just be the movement of that fun grill back and forth. It's just fun. It's just kind of mesmerizing to kind of sit there and open and close and open and close. So let's go ahead and create that one. Okay. Since we did the first one, this one should go a little faster because we kind of know what we're doing. It's all the same concept. So again, it's like a gatefold card. I did not give you firm lines when I was packaging it up because I wanted you to be able to line up the edges, give it a nice crisp fold with your bone folder or your fingers so the edges met. Like that. Okay, so then we are doing a few different patterns that we didn't do previously. So we've got this fun stripe one, and on the back side's that tweed. So I'm just going to go ahead and this is going to be glued to that. But before we do that, I wanted to show you another technique. So you may have noticed that you had this emery board in your kit. I wanted to kind of rough up all of the edges so that, again, it kind of has that masculine, rugged, worn look to it. So you can go ahead and just rub that emery board along the edges of all of your pattern paper and all of your cardstock. If you like that look, obviously you don't have to do it if you don't like it, but I do think it kind of adds to it, and it's a simple thing that you can do. And that's kind of the nice thing. I said earlier how our cardstock is two-toned. Like, it'll be here. Let me show you. So this is the light side, and here's the dark side. You can see the difference. And in addition to having that two-tone to our cardstock, it also is white core. So it gives you this ability to go ahead and sand it and show off that white edge, which is really fun. Kind of a unique thing to be able to do. And so you can just go ahead and go around the edges. Again, as little or as much as you want. Okay, so those two can then be glued together. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this piece of Harbor. I love our Harbor color, this kind of a deep blue, kind of gray feel to it a little bit. It's just really pretty. I actually love all the colors in this kit. I think I tend to gravitate towards like autumn tones, and I think these rich warm hues in this Hey Handsome paper packet are just so great. Okay, so then we've got this fun pattern here with the little diamonds and circles. But if you want to use the back side, it's the Harbor Plaid. Okay, just finish this off. And again, this, just like the scissor distressing, it will leave a little bit of paper dust in your area, so you'll just need to kind of, you know, toss that to the side. And I don't think the tweed one here, I did not do the tweed one. I did do the green, so you could go ahead, the pine, if you want to keep that look going all the way across. And you could, you know, just do all the cardstocks and not do the patterns, or do all the patterns and not the cardstock. You could kind of mix it up however you want to do it. See. Make sure I get all the edges here so it's nice and consistent. Okay. And then what I did is with this big piece of mink, I went back and I scissor distressed, just like we did in the first one. So where you open up your scissors, and then you're going to carefully rub along the edges. Again, as little or as much as you want. It's all about that pressure and how much you go back and forth over it. I'm so glad you guys are liking it. I'm liking that you guys are giving the comments that you like the edging and how it gives it a different look. It is fun to just be able to do these little tricks that just give kind of a different look to it, and it doesn't take a lot of effort. It's not like a really challenging technique or anything. It's just a little bit of time, and it changes the look so much. Okay, so let's go ahead and start gluing everything together. So like I said, this stripe piece is going to go right on top of the harbor. You'll leave a little border of harbor. But then you see that nice sanded edge, which is fun. And that's going to glue right to that side panel, the smaller panel. In the first card, it was the bottom, and this time it's the right edge of your card because we're changing the orientation. So we're not making it anything different. It's just changing up how it is. So that's something to think about when you're creating cards. If you create a card and you really love how it looks, just flip, you know, like if you like it like this, flip it and change how you do it and see, even though it's the same design, if you just change the orientation, it can have a completely different look, which is really fun. And I think sometimes we forget just simple touches like that can make such a big difference. Okay, so then you have this piece here that you're going to go ahead and center along the base. And keep in mind, you're going to want to leave a little bit on the bottom and a little bit on the two sides. Okay. All right, and then we're going to grab that little thin strip of paprika, and I forgot to sand this one, so I'm going to do this one real quick. And I kind of went over the whole thing, just like this, laying my emery board flat. Since it's such a thin piece, it was just easier to do it like this and get that look. And then you can kind of rough up the edges a little bit more if you need a little bit more, but just like that. And then this is going to go right on top of, you can either, depending on how much of the blue you want to show, you can go right flush to this top and you have a bigger portion of the blue, or you can go flush up against like this, and then you're going to have less of the blue. So it's completely up to you how you want to do it. I'm going to kind of overlap, kind of go in the middle there. It looks like my piece is a little bit long, so I'll just trim that off. Okay. All right. So then this is where we're going to bring in that twine before we glue it down to our card. Again, kind of the same concept as I wanted it to look a little bit thicker, so I'm going to go ahead and bring the two ends together, and then I'm going to cut it in half. And then we're going to start from the back side here, bringing it to the front, and I'm just going to simply tie it in a knot. And if you want to conserve your twine because you want to use it for another project, what you could do is you could bring over the one side so you've got the longer portion and then a shorter portion, so that way you could use some of it for something else, because I gave you guys plenty of twine. Or you could just knot it and just cut off the ends and toss them, whichever you want to do. Okay, so now we're just going to trim these ends up like that. There we go. And then this can be glued onto your card front. Okay, nothing tricky here. Kind of following the same idea that we did previously, leaving that border around. And I just realized that I did not sand my front of my card here or the side, but that's okay. So if you wanted to, you could go in You can always do this later to tie it all in, or you can just leave it without any sanding. Okay, so then we've got our sentiment here, "You are flippin' awesome," and I scissor distress that. So I'm opening up my scissors and then carefully rubbing them on the edge all the way around this oval die cut here to kind of rough it up, give it a little bit more character. Just like that. Okay, close them. And then this one too, I put on some 3D foam here, and it's only on that left edge because it's overlapping, and that's kind of what the closure is. So let me grab my foam and put 2 dots here. Take that backing off. Okay. And so I'm kind of overlapping that little twine that we have there and sticking that down. And so you can see when it opens, that stays with that left flap just like that. Okay, so we'll save the rest of the embellishing for the front till the end here, and we're gonna go ahead and work on the inside again, like we did previously. So we've got our piece here. We're having the smaller scored section to the left with the bigger side to the right. We're gonna take that tweed and we're gonna go ahead and center that on that middle panel. Again, you can change up the pattern if you want this other pattern. You could do that. Okay, centered it right in there. Okay, so then we're gonna do just like we did before. We're gonna put some strong tape on this thin score line. Let's see, get my score tape here. Put that down. Then I'm gonna go ahead and remove the backing. And so just as we did before, this is gonna go ahead, and I did not center it actually. That's what I should point out. Notice it's further down to the bottom portion because I wanted to have a section where you could write on your card. So if you wanted to have it even lower, you could. There's no real measurement as to where you want to put it. It's just so that you have room to sign it or say something. You could always write on the back of the card too, but I think it's kind of nice that if you leave this space here, it allows you to write and sign it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put it flush to that score line, and I'm leaving maybe a ½ inch on the left here. And then that way, that's creating that pocket. And then we're gonna do a little cluster of our barbecue and our utensils. And I want to show you a couple tricks with these. So you'll notice that I colored in my utensils here. I used those metallic markers. So I'm gonna show you what I did is I just took a piece of our tape so I could stick it down like that. And then I'm gonna use that super fine tip. This is the one that's made for writing because that's gonna allow me to really get in there easier. And then I'm just gonna trace where I have that black, and it doesn't need to be perfect. If you don't have the marker, having them as black utensils is great too. I just wanted to show you, it's always fun to see how you can just change things just in a simple way. And I think this is one of those things that just is, it takes it up a notch and it's not hard. And I truthfully just love these markers. I use them all the time to like color my gems and color like these utensils. So like I said, this does not dry quickly, so I'm not gonna glue these pieces right now because I'll probably end up getting this metallic marker all over my fingers if I do. But so I'm gonna just color this here so you can see. And then I'm gonna show you how I did the little barbecue fire. Actually, you guys get the idea with this. So I'm gonna set this to the side because I don't want to run out of time here. So set these guys off to the side. All right, so then the fire, the barbecue, you'll notice here that I've stamped it. And I want to show you what I did. Let me get that stamp image. So I used our scarlet ink, our black ink, and our scarlet. So let's see here. So our ink pads are magnetic, which is awesome. You can kind of see, you can kind of hear it. It pulls, once you get close, it pulls it together, which is one awesome feature to them. The other thing is that they've got pretty straight edges all the way around. So what I did is I don't know if I can get this closer for you guys to see and do it, but if you look at your stamp, you can kind of see there's a straight edge there where the flame is coming up from the barbecue. So I just went and tapped on my scarlet ink pad for the flame up to where that line is. So you can see I got a little bit of the scarlet on that barbecue, but that's okay because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this ink pad. I'm going to grab my black, and and I'm gonna do the same thing, is where I'm gonna selectively just ink up that barbecue portion where it meets the flame. And since they're clear and the block is clear, you can kind of see if you've missed a little bit. So I'm gonna go back in and tap a little bit more. And then you're just gonna go ahead and stamp as usual. So then you get that two-toned effect, and it wasn't anything challenging, okay? Then the other thing I did is I wanted to get that illusion of heat. So I brought in some markers. So let me get my little flame barbecue thing. Let's see. Got so many pieces flying around here now. I can't find my little barbecue. So I'm gonna go ahead and color this one in for you guys. Oh, it's right here. So silly. Okay, so I've got this. Then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take my, this is our burnt orange tri-blend marker. I'm gonna use the middle tone of it, and I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna just trace along the red. And there's no right or wrong like amount or how to do it, but I just wanted to kind of get that in there. And then I'm gonna finish it off by using our light yellow, and I'm gonna go with the mid again and just bring in some yellow there in the center. And then it kind of gives that illusion of a flame. You know how there's the different colors in there because of the different temperatures of that flame. So it's just kind of a fun way to give it, again, like I said, just doing something little, but it adds a lot to it. So then what we're gonna do is, I'm not gonna glue those yet, but you will glue down your two utensils first, and then you'll glue down your barbecue right on top of it. I don't have any of them 3D'd because you don't want them to be 3D'd because they're gonna then go in that pocket and you want it to be smooth and go back and forth. So then we're gonna go ahead and create our pocket. Hopefully I don't get this one too tight this time. I'm gonna go off the edge a little bit here and trim this, just so that I don't mess that up. Okay, so we got on the one side, and then the other side. Actually, as I'm doing this, I'm realizing I don't really need to worry too much on this one because this, oh, sorry, I'll just go ahead. This one, the little pull portion is skinnier than our first one, so I shouldn't have any issue with getting it too tight like I did in the first one. Okay, so then I'm gonna go ahead and peel off these backings. And then I'm gonna make sure the sides are lined up to create that pocket, just like that. And then tuck it in like we did previously. Like that, whoops. And so then you'll see it pulls open, super cool. All right, so that's the inside mechanism. So let's go ahead and go back to the front and we will decorate. So you'll see here that I did the 3 little arrows here in the top corner. You could do any of the arrows that you like. And then I added a couple additional arrows that I colored in with our tri-blend marker. So it's that same technique that I had shown you previously, where if you take a little bit of the tape, you can go ahead and with the sticky side up, you can take one of your desired little arrows. And I love these arrows because they are so, I mean, they've got that texture in them with the wood grain, but they're so thin. They're a little bit thicker than cardstock, but not as thick as chipboard. I think it's a paper board. And so it doesn't add a ton of bulk, but it adds that nice dimension and just some more fun to it. So I'm going to do the actual dark side of this burnt orange again, and I'm just going to color in right over it, and the color will take really easily, and as it dries you will still see those little wood grain in it. It won't be as strong as if you left it just as it is, but let's see, what other one do I want to do? Do this little guy here. So you've got a lot of choices of arrows that you can use. I'm going to do this one here. So I'm going to take this off because now it's done. Since these are alcohol markers, they will dry right away. You don't have to worry about them. They're not like the metallic paint ones where it takes just a little bit longer for them to dry. So by using this tape to hold it in place, it's just so easy to like not have to get any ink on your fingers. You can just color and then lift off. Okay, so then I'm just gonna go ahead and peel that off. And like I said, I guess I should have maybe tried it with this one, is you could go ahead, and since I did have the silver in the front, or I'm sorry, in the inside with the utensils, we could do the silver here, and let's do that just for a different look so you guys can see how to change it up a little bit. So I will have this one here. And then let me color. Let's see. Let me get those gems that I had colored previously and put those up at the top maybe. Actually, I don't see them here on my table. I'm going to go ahead and finish with my other arrow real quick first. Let's grab another little one. Okay, get my tape. And go ahead and color the arrow real quick. Looks so cool, and it's so quick, such a quick transformation. So I won't peel it off just yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a piece of scratch paper. I don't know if this will work or not, so this is a test. I'm just going to see if I kind of blot it, if then I can work with it quicker because it won't get my fingers inky. Okay. And put some adhesive behind it. Oh, you can see it's still there. It's still transferred to my Versamat there. So then I'm going to go ahead and have this arrow here, just like that. And then I do not know what I did with my other dots. I know I moved them out of the way so they would dry. But we could put some silver dots up here at the top to kind of finish it off. So then it went ahead, and so just like the utensils, it's all silver and looks kind of metal. So just kind of a fun, quick, easy way to change it up. So that is all I have for you guys today. I hope that you guys have loved it. I hope that, especially that you've learned something new. I do have a handful of kits left, or like I said, I am offering this time the opportunity to just get the PDF with all the dimensions and the scoring. So that way you can use your own supplies to create these cards on your own. So I will put that link in the comments so that it's easy to find. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will definitely answer them, and I will go back and answer any of them that I didn't catch while I was doing this today. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your guys' day.